Good morning. Welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg. Hang on a minute. I've got to turn something off here. I've got noise coming from somewhere. And it is the 7th day of May 2025. And looks like we're facing a really great day here today in Michigan, albeit we've got some bombing going on between India and Pakistan. And so we've got some things we're watching out there in the news. So today we're going to jump right into Liberty Essentials with Bill Mohr, and Ralph Karen is on vacation right now, so it's going to be the three of us. And then after that, Greg Martini is going to be on, and we are going to be looking at point of clarity notice of maladministration due to unofficial acts, which we get to talk about, and giving our public functionaries notice. I'm kind of excited about this because I'm really getting into more and more the legal framework for holding people accountable. And we just had a wonderful reaction from the Attorney General's office, which I find laughable. It's not only laughable, but guess what? They just keep digging their hole deeper every time they open their mouths. If we're not afraid to look them in the eye, run right to the fire, and take a look at what they're actually saying, you can see how actually dumb these people are. I mean, when it's been said that these people are stupid, I'm not kidding you. This is just incredible because they're literally breaking the law and hoping that none of us notice. They're kind of making it easy for us. So anyhow, we're going to bring on Ralph and Bill this morning. How you guys doing?
Good.
We have so much to talk about. My mind I feel like I'm like all over the place this morning, and my brain is trying to focus on one topic, but there's so many. It's incredible. We could talk about what's happening with India and Pakistan this morning. We can talk about the nonsense that's happening with the border and the questions that need to be asked about the border. You know, this is it's almost kind of funny. They're trying to blame Biden with everything, but the House was controlled by the GOP in 23 and 24. Nobody stopped anything. It is a lie if anybody thinks that either one of these parties are going to do a thing for this nation, because they're all in on the steal. I did a post. Kim Wexler put something out there which I thought was just absolutely amazing. And I think that we need to really look into what was actually done here. The GOP controlled the House in 23-24. So who was responsible for funding and facilitating the invasion? It is right out there. There is a hang on a minute, I'm going to pull this up here. Testimony from Scott Bensman, Senior National Security Fellow at the Center for Immigration Studies, detailing his investigation into the UN's activities on the migration trail, and sharing evidence of how the UN agencies appear to be colluding with non-governmental organizations and human smuggling gangs. That means that the Republican Party, the Democrat Party, everyone in Congress was part of colluding on this, including Catholic services, Lutheran services, Bethany Christian services. Anyone that touched any part of this was involved in the collusion against the United States of an illegal invasion, and how they did it. Incredible.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't understand when it comes down to that. This is not just allowing immigrants in illegally, right? There are processes for proper immigration into the U.S., as there should be, as almost every other country out there. I mean, you try to do what they're doing here in the U.S. Try to do that over in, I don't know, Iran. See how well it works for you, right?
Right.
Try to do it over in Israel. Try to go to Russia and tackle the same thing. You're going to be met with force, right? But it seems like the American people, especially through the representation, have left off the very laws that protect them in that. In the 18 USC, I forget the number now, but the crimes for alluring illegal immigrants in that commit crimes against the American people, the people that allured them in, namely the representatives, you just spoke about Congress, they're the biggest part of it.
They are.
Local legislatures and governors, even, and mayors, anybody that is responsible for alluring them in when they commit the crimes, the responsible party luring them is to be held accountable, right? And if they're allowing illegal immigration to come in with the means of conquering, like a lot of the, not all of them, but a lot of the Islamic nations are sending people over here, and they're being accepted into these sanctuary areas, that's treason, right? Because they are a known enemy to the United States Republic and against the people themselves. And
Hamas, Muslim Brotherhood, but then we can go to the Zionists too. I mean, we've got everyone, every bad guy on the planet that has infiltrated every organization, including the DNR here in Michigan, Congress, the weaponized agencies. The whole thing needs to be absolutely looked at, and the individuals involved in this have got to be prosecuted. We're going to need like about 1,000 Alcatrazes out there and throw them all in. This is crazy.
Well, and too, a lot of the people coming in are Chinese nationals, not Chinese people, but Chinese nationals. There is a difference there.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and have a sob story as we import in an entire invading army from the global crime syndicate on every country on the planet. Oh, feel sorry for them. Are you kidding me? These people are coming trained with weaponry. When you look at the type of people that they're pulling in, it's not moms and kids. This is fighting age males. And anybody that's buying this stuff, I can't help you. That this is unbelievable, UN agencies such as International Organization for Migration, IOM, and the United Nations High Commissioner of Refugees, UNHCR, providing hard cash, food, shelter, legal services, psychological services all along the migration trail. This is treason on everyone in the agencies. I mean, I'm going to tell you what, this is not something that we can walk away from. The people within the agencies that facilitated it, that are Americans, it's treason.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, too, a lot of the people that watch the show here already know this, but, there are still a lot of people out there that don't understand how having all of the illegal immigrants focused down into the cities and liberal areas changes the House representative apportionment of those areas and effectively inflates the voting power of all of the citizens that are within that area.
Well, and look at it, the House, the Republican, the GOP, criminal Republican Party, criminal Democrat Party, because they literally have taken foreign money to place their operatives and their puppets in place. This is incredible. According to UN documents, migrants migrants, these include the unrestricted, unconditionally usable plastic cash cards and also cash-filled envelopes in some areas. Never a good look, cash-filled envelopes, anyone. Just saying. Money transfers for lodging, pharmaceutical prescriptions, and for something called movement assistance, which means transportation money to move forward when camps empty and reform further north. If you're not pissed, you should be.
Yep. And remember, the code I was just talking about is 18 USC 2381, right? Remember, you just brought up Alcatraz, but a lot of it goes beyond even a prison sentence, right? The very, very first part of the justice and treason, it says whoever owing allegiance to the United States, therefore those citizens within the United States, whoever levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, giving them aid or comfort within the United States or elsewhere, is guilty of treason and shall suffer death or be imprisoned for not less than 5 years and fined.
So that would be like every dual citizenship holder that's in office. That should go to anyone who's flying a foreign flag disturbing the peace. Because redress of grievance doesn't allow you to go and wreck stuff and disturb the peace. That's not how you do it. You do it in a lawful manner and instruct as well as use the pen. It's not going out there acting like a bunch of idiots, smashing stuff because you didn't get your way. Wham, you know?
Yep. This is all part of judgment on a nation that forgets their foundations, that forget their God, right? Deuteronomy 28 makes it very clear that he brings in a nation of fierce countenance, of a tongue that you won't know, and they will become the head, you will become the tail, right? No less than how our nation is set up. The people are the head of this nation, right? We are the kings. We are the ones with all political power invested in it. The government is merely the tail. And yet people have allowed the tail to wag the dog, so to speak. And that's,
well, they are kind of the tail because they're all full of crap. So there you go, you know?
Yep. So it's a constant watch. I mean, anybody that doesn't understand that regarding immigration and what comes out of that, you have to wrap your head around it quick because it's coming to your front door. And a lot of people are sitting back thinking, yeah, this is just happening in the big cities. I'm out here in the country. It ain't really going to affect me. It's going to affect you. I can guarantee it. And if you don't stop it now, it's going to come right to your front door. We saw that already out on the West Coast where they were bringing in illegal immigration. And in California alone, they were chasing out homeowners to provide sanctuary for illegal immigrants, those that come with the intent to conquer Americans.
Right. Well, they're doing it through the DNR in Michigan. They're going to try to turn this into Michifornia here with, taking all of our land and stealing our resources. That's exactly what this is all about. And the DNR isn't the Department of Natural Resources. It's destroy, neglect, and ravage. They're literally clear cutting this state. And every one of those people that is involved in that, they are committing treason. They are colluding to defraud the people of Michigan. And the legislature of Michigan did the same thing by selling a permit to Ice Mountain, which is Nestle, which is owned by Coca-Cola.
Yeah. And remember, just recently, the federal government has come out and let's see, there was a point I wanted to make right before I said this. I don't remember. Anyway, the federal government come out. Remember Kristi Noem, right? Governor of South Dakota. She was appointed to head of what? The Homeland Security, that unconstitutional agency that has no right to exist, right? It's a branch off from the old Patriot Act. We all know what that is. If you don't, catch up quick, because that is the most unpatriot act that has ever passed through our Congress.
It's treasonous, and GOP Hoekstra signed that thing twice. That means he's a traitor.
Yep. But now you have Governor Kristi Noem, the so-called conservative. Everybody was praising her back during the pandemic because she supposedly was one of the ones that didn't lock down her state, right? Well, she did. She allowed all of her unconstitutional agencies by her signature to do the exact same. That was even happening in places like Michigan and California and New York, right? Though she wasn't the head of it, she was definitely the puppet behind it. Now she's appointed to Homeland Security anyway. And what did she just come out and say this last week? That ICE has the ability to enter your home without a warrant to search for any illegal immigrants, right? Where did they derive that authority from? I'm pretty sure that the Constitution, one of our protected rights in the Constitution, not our constitutional rights, our God-given rights protected by the Constitution. One of those is to be able to be free from unwarranted searches or seizures.
Kind of blew that.
Yeah, but these are the conservative heads that are being put up that the people are praising, and it is absolutely incredible to me that people can get to that point, right? Not only that, but the current administration, they were praising the current administration for publicly announcing that they wanted to be able to digitally track illegal immigrants, right? Part of that comes through this new the Real ID process that has been pushed ever since Clinton, which is now being implemented by by the current heads of state, including Kristi Noem. She was pushing it and lying to the American people all the last month, and now has turned tail on what she had said, but won't publicly admit that she defrauded everybody in it. But they want to track illegal immigration digitally. Well, how are they going to do that? The only way to track illegal immigration that way at the federal level, you have to track everybody, right? That includes you, Americans. I don't know about you, but I never gave the federal government the right to track me, or let alone to even know who I am. They have no business in that. The only business they have in your personal life regarding that is through their census. And you are only a number to apportion proper representation among the states. That's it. They don't need to know anything more about you. That is left to the states. The 10th Amendment.
So I'm gonna throw a scenario out there, right? Because I want to be balanced about this, because I agree with you that some of this stuff is not supposed to happen. But when we're in a situation where this country has already been taken over and we're in a war, and the imposters that are sitting in the seats are all unlawful, and they have broken the law, they've committed treason. So we've got an imposter government sitting in the seats who have allowed and imported their own army and funded it, and used the NGOs who are now can be and should be thrown into let's just call them what they are. They are the basket of deplorables. Okay. So we got this whole big basket of deplorables. Let's throw all the NGOs in there who even touched it with a little finger on this. They're guilty, right? We got the judges, Soros judges, who are not. We have the Attorney General's office in Michigan, who should have investigated the case I filed, but instead threw 5 attorneys at me to defend someone who was without defense, and had to falsify documents to try to get around it. Oh, this is going to be fun. I love how stupid these people are.
I find the whole real ID thing kind of interesting and kind of funny too, because what do they? This has been something that they've been trying to implement for years and years and years now, and this is just so far this is just when they have decided to stop postponing the deadline for it, because it's been postponed for years now, but it's been required for years, and they keep postponing it. But the thing I find funny about it is, how do they mark your driver's license for your compliance with it? With a gold star.
That's right.
Where have we seen gold stars being required to be carried around by people before?
The Starbelly Sneetches, of course.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, and I got to say, okay, you know how I feel about President Trump, and you and I are on opposite sides of the line for President Trump usually. So, and I appreciate what you have to say, because you're correct. You're correct that this shouldn't be done this way, but we're also in a war. And my opinion is that President Trump gets thrown out there as bait for dummies. And not that the bad guy dummies, not good guy dummies, but bad guy dummies who are trying to save their own tails, as he's taking their criminal enterprise Titanic down using their own means against them. Everything they've done wrong. Like, let's just go there. Okay, let's just go there. Let's just go to the bar. Okay, the bar. I hate the bar. I think the bar needs to be abolished, and every single one of them needs to be, first off, we'll give them a chance to be educated on the fact that they're criminals and they have been involved in an organization which is criminally set against the American people. However, if you get real smart about this whole private membership thing, that's exactly what the Clintons did. And that's why if we pick up their weapons that they've used, like these private membership associations, use them against them, because if they were to come after us, we'd go after them. They got not a leg to stand on. And so since they have, until we get this whole thing figured out and bring every one of them down, I think this isn't a bad way to play the game with them. You know,
whenever possible, use the enemy's infrastructure against them.
pick it up, and absolutely, they have figured out these ways to absolutely do the wrong thing, made it come kind of sort of quasi legal. Private membership association should never be necessary. That is the point. It shouldn't be necessary if you go back to the Constitution, and you could stand on it as a constitutional issue. Is like, why are any of us doing it? That's how they're getting away with it. That's how the casinos are getting away with it. The casinos get away with money laundering, child trafficking, the whole 10 yards. They're being used because they're on what? A foreign nation's soil, or a sovereign nation soil. I think foreign is the wrong. They become nations. So guess what? We can't go investigate them. That's why they hauled the Knoll brothers into the casino to interrogate them. How in the world did these fake cops, these fake FBI thugs, pukes, pull the Knoll brothers into the Constitution for into the casinos for interrogation?
On that note of having effectively private police enforcement, did you guys know that railroads have their own police departments that basically carry the full force of law despite policing only private property?
U.S. Forestry has some of the most unchecked power of any agency. DNR in Michigan. DNR is a thug force. And when I was up at Grayling, there was no military there. Don't let them suck you into their illusions, because it's all illusions. It was the DNR that was up there. And these guys are a bunch of arrogant pukes too.
Now, Ralph, you made a good point there. Private police force, right? But I want to expand on that just a little bit, because a lot of people look at this and they say, you know, what can be done, right? And I understand some of the art of war. I understand that some things may look different than what they are, right? And I also understand that sometimes you have to use somewhat unconventional tactics to get around that which the enemy is proposing against you. Okay, so break it down from top to bottom, right? You've got a sitting president whose duty is to enforce the law, right? Absolutely correct. That's his duty. How does he so do that? Well, one, he can do it through the court system, right? We just talked about that. The court system's corrupt. They don't know the law, right? They know statutes, and they think they have some sort of case law behind them to go on.
Oh, it's a game, and it's not even lawful. It's not lawful. It's not legal. They throw crap out there like Brader did when he lost 10,000 of my signatures. And, you know, it's like, just make it up as you go, you know?
You've got the power of executive departments, right? Most of which are unconstitutional, so I don't really recommend that. You've got the Congress, right? The Congress is supposed to be training, arming, regulating, disciplining a militia, right? The citizens force. Not only that, by the way, they're supposed to be arming them, as in they're supposed to be buying the defense weapons for them.
Probably better plan than sending all that money to Ukraine and you know, like weapons and such. Why didn't they just hand it to the American people? And I don't mean the illegals here.
If you don't have an M1 Abrams in your backyard, I suggest you petition your congressman and have them buy one for you, because you absolutely need one. Besides, you know, Michigan just got 20 new F-15s shoved onto their standing army base, right? I'll just leave it at that. So you got Congress with the ability to arm the militia and bring them into service of the federal government to do what? To enforce the law, suppress insurrection, repel invasion. Under whose command? The president's. Right?
I would say I would argue that not only do they have the ability, they have a ministerial duty to.
Yes. Yeah. So that's at the federal level, right? Break it down. Is any of that plausible? I mean, does anybody see any of that happening, or even the potential to happen with the sitting crooks that are in the seats?
Not a chance. They're still trying to take our firearms away and stomp on the Constitution, the the Second Amendment, and then you've got the Convention of State idiots that are out there, calling the battle cry to destroy that.
Okay. So if we can agree that can't happen at the federal level, then let's see, the federal government is the child of the parent, which would be the states, right? And the powers not reserved to the federal government are delegated to the states or to the people, respectively. So if the federal government's not going to do their job, then the parents got to come in and give them a good spanking on the backside and take care of it for them, right? So at the state level, you have almost the exact same structure. You have a citizen militia who is supposed to be organized and disciplined within their own local communities, right? You talk about private police force, we're getting there. Who is supposed to have officers appointed to them as heads of each militia, just like the military is designed, right? That way, all the chains of communication work together. And who is supposed to do that? The governor, namely, right? Okay. Well, we don't see that actively being done. So what do we have? We have a governor who is not fulfilling her duties, right? Speaking specifically of the state of Michigan. By the way, the state of Michigan is probably the most heavily occupied area of militias, though I believe most of them are nothing more than survivalist groups at this point. But she is supposed to be doing that. She's not doing that. And somewhere our legislature thought through an act of statutory law that they could take the power away from the people and their militias and delegate it to a standing army known as the National Guard. Okay. So now you have an unconstitutional standing army within the state, and you have a disbanded citizen militia. Though it's still in law, mind you, it's still a perfectly lawful practice, and it's a perfectly lawful duty to the American people to organize in that fashion.
And the only one that says is necessary.
Right.
Right.
Yep. It is absolutely necessary for the security of a free state. So it's not happening at the state it's not happening at the federal level. It's not happening at the state governmental level, right? Our legislature certainly isn't doing anything about it. However, this has been protected by the court system a handful of times, right? Even unorganized militia presence doing their job, right? Kyle Rittenhouse is one of those perfect examples. Though they persecuted that man up and down the aisles, and he still has not seen justice for it. It was proven that he was absolutely justified in what he did. Okay. I was another one that was in the same position as he was, though I didn't have to take it to that extent, praise God. So when the state government refuses to do their duties in organizing and disciplining and regulating militia in that regard, what does the 10th Amendment say? That the powers not delegated to the federal government are delegated to the states.
Reserved for the states.
Reserved to the states, sorry. And then to the people, respectively. Right? So, once again, you have a federal government, the child of the parent, which is state government. The state government is also a child to whom? The people.
The people.
Who are the parent of the state, right? So when the state government acts out of line or fails to fill their duties, what is the parent supposed to do? We smack them on the behind and we get them plugged in. Either that or we have to make it happen, right?
I like to look at it as a service contract and say, fire them, and then prosecute them for the crimes that they've committed.
Well, and that's the whole other aspect of it is we all understand that principle, though there be few people calling for it.
Or doing it.
Yeah, even when we call for the impeachment and removal and then the prosecution of, that's like the one thing that does not happen, right? I've been in contact with numerous state representatives as well, and I've been pushing that issue over and over. And the common reply I get back is something along the lines as, well, we're focused on reining in the powers of the state government right now. Well, how do you do that? You kick the corrupt out of there and prosecute them. Then the next guy probably won't do it. You want to rein in powers, you hold to the Constitution and do it correctly, right? If they're not going to do that, the people have the power to rise up, no less than the founding of this country, as our Declaration of Independence says, is that It is our right to alter or abolish, right? So if the federal government is not going to protect the citizenry and the state government is not going to fulfill their duties in allowing the citizens to protect the citizenry, then it goes back and is reserved to the citizenry itself to protect itself. Michigan has one of the strongest points on that. Article 1, Section 6 in Michigan. It's the pre-article to our Second Amendment, right? Everybody should know their state amendments as well. But in Michigan, we say that every citizen has the right to keep and bear arms for the defense of himself first and the state, right? It works in that order. And there's too many people out there that are just sitting back and saying, well, we can't do anything about it. Well, you most certainly can. And let me tell you, if I see an invading army in my community, which so far I don't see, okay? I'm not going to say that it's not happening, but I'm not seeing it organized in that regard. There are communities fairly close to me that are. But my jurisdiction lies within my community, my kinsmen, my neighbors. That's part of my responsibility to protect, right? And that's not going to fly in my community. We have plenty of individuals who understand what I was just talking about, and we will put a stop to it. Whether the federal government wants to come in and try to force it or not, it's not going to be allowed, right? So that's the bare bones of how that is supposed to operate. If the federal government won't do it, it falls all the way back to the people. And one of the things that I told you I wanted to touch on, and this is real quick, but it ties in similarly, tongue twisters, to what we're talking about and what we've talked about in the past. When I say it's the people's responsibility to do certain things, right, I mean that. But it's also generational responsibility to properly educate and train up the people to do so. Okay? If we don't understand our foundations, if we don't understand where we've been, we won't understand where we're going, right? We can only take a shot in the dark. If we don't understand history, we're doomed to repeat it, right? Numerous phrases that wise men before us have said. One of the things that I ran across, and I think I knew this back when, but I never touched on it, so I never actually locked it in my head. But one of the main purposes for education, if not the main purpose for education, was that the people would understand the scriptures themselves. Right? And I can prove that. There's an old act from 1647, right? The early colonization of America in Massachusetts, calls the Old Deluder Satan Law. Right? Have you heard of that?
No.
Okay. It's really short, really quick. And let me just read it to you and explain what I've been saying here. It states, it being one chief project that the old deluder, Satan, to keep men from the knowledge of the scriptures as in former times, keeping them in an unknown tongue, so that these latter times, by persuading from the use of tongues, that so at least the true sense and meaning of the original might be clouded by false glosses of saint-seeming deceivers, and that learning may not be buried in the graves of our forefathers in church and commonwealth, the Lord assisting our endeavors, it is therefore ordered by this court and authority thereof, that every township in this jurisdiction, after the Lord hath increased them to the number of 50 households, shall then forthwith appoint one within their own town to teach all such children as shall resort to him to write and read. Those wages shall be paid either by the parents or masters of their children, or by the inhabitants in general, by way of supply, as the major part of those that order the prudentials of the town shall appoint, provided that those which send their children be not oppressed by paying much more than they can have them taught in or taught for in other towns. It is further ordered that where any town shall increase the number of 100 families or households, they shall set up a grammar school, the masters thereof being able to instruct youth so far as they may be fitted for the university. And if any town neglects the performance hereof above 1 year, then every such town shall pay 5 pounds per annum to the next such school district till they perform this order. It's that short. Basically, education was forefront on the framers and founders' minds for the purpose of understanding the scriptures, because we know that the powers that be, the powers that are tolerated among this world, will forever continue to try to keep the next generation from knowing their past and knowing the truth.
Well, and look at the attack. The attack is on integrity. The attack is on the knowledge of God, but it's the integrity, it's the honesty, it's doing things that are community based, and is put it into more of a frame of, you're your own little God. Go ahead and do whatever you want. And all of these goals out there, which have nothing to do with God, morality, community, family, any of that. That's what they went after. That's the jugular vein that they went after when our society turned its back on God. And you can see the lack of integrity. It's not just the public functionaries. It's the entirety of society. How many people are absolutely spending time destroying their neighbors instead of helping them?
And that's one of the reasons why I like to go back. I like to look at the Israelites while they were walking around in the wilderness, right? We know how that happened. Brief recap, right? Moses brings them over nearby the promised land. Okay. They send one person from every tribe to go search out the promised land, right? What do? They come back with a cluster of grapes so large they got to carry it on a pole between 2 men, right? They talk about how great the land is. They know they've already been promised it. Okay, they know they have to go and inherit it. Not only is it their right and duty to do so, but it's the blessing that's given to them, right? So they send the 12 tribes. They come back. What happens? 10 of them say, "Oh yeah, the land is just like it said. It's got all this. Look at the stuff we brought back, but it's got giants in it. I mean, the people here are immense. They're huge. They're innumerable. We'll just be outnumbered. There's no way we can get it." Right? 10 out of 12. Caleb and Joshua stood up and said, "Hey, yeah, we know all this. We saw it too, but we're more than able to conquer. All right? God's given us this land. It's our commandment to go in and possess it. So it's our duty to go do so." Well, who did the mass people listen to? Right? Mob mentality. They listen to the crowd. They listen to the 10 over the 2.
The naysayers.
Yep.
And they know we can't do this. Is too hard. Wow. We can't possibly do this. What? You want us to enter a fight? We're going to get our tails kicked because, really?
That is almost always the case when it comes to righteous battles, right? Things that the Lord has called his church to go fight. That is almost always the case, is the people will listen to the majority over the 1 or 2 that stand up and actually give you the truth.
It's never the crowd. It's never ever the crowd that fights any actual battles. It's the person or the small group or the remnant that stands up and says, "No more."
Yep. And I was going through that, and we all know the outcome of that, right? They were cursed to never enter the promised land. That generation, anyway, they were cursed to not enter the promised land. They walked around, and they ended up dying in the wilderness, right? Yep. Every single one, except the anointed one, Moses, right, the chosen one to lead the people, and the 2 witnesses that came back and said, "We can do this." Everybody else.
Moses couldn't enter either because he struck the rock, so he screwed that up too. It's like.
Yep, one act of anger.
God, the instructions come, and the instructions have consequences.
One act of anger kept Moses out of the promised land as well.
I think God had that there for a reason, though. Think about it. The people were so idolatrous that if he would have let Moses cross into the promised land, they just start erecting statues, and they would start worshiping the image of Moses because the people were so spiritually immature. They just got spanked out in the desert. Big taken to the woodshed moment from God to them. And he knew they would go right back into idolatry, into worship. I mean, what do we see out there in the political landscape? was the same thing. The whole thing is idolatrous. Okay, we've got to worship this person that's going to fix our problems, or that person that's going to fix our problems, instead of going, you know what? Maybe I'm kind of insignificant in the big scheme of things, but you know what? Send me. That should be the word out of everybody's mouth. Send me. I'll go. Looks impossible. Fantastic.
Yeah, and then move into most people don't talk about this aspect of it because it's really short in the book of Joshua, but move into a little bit later in their history, right? If you go into Joshua, it's in chapter 17, right? They're dividing up the land finally among the next generation that's caused to inherit it, okay? And you have this split tribe from Joseph. You have Ephraim and Manasseh, right? And it goes in and depicts where their land was. They were border nations to each other, but they were also very large. They were very large people. And when they were given the land, it said that the children of Manasseh could not drive out the inhabitants of those cities, but the Canaanites would dwell in that land, right? That wasn't the fact that they weren't necessarily able to, but that they didn't. And the Canaanites were allowed to be there. And then it goes on to say, when the children of Israel were waxing strong, that they put the Canaanites to tribute, right? That was a promise all the way back to Noah's son Ham. Remember that? They were called to serve Shem and Japheth, but they didn't utterly drive them out, right? So now you have these Canaanites living in their land. But nonetheless, Joshua came up to them, the children of Joseph came up to him, that's Ephraim and Manasseh, and said, "Why hast thou given me but one lot and one portion to inherit, seeing I am a great people, for as much the Lord hath blessed me hitherto?" Right? They admitted the blessings upon them. They admitted that they were growing in the blessing, and they admitted that they had the inheritance, but were complaining about the size that they were given. Right? Very valid point. Okay? And Joshua told them, "If thou be a great people," which they were claiming, "get thee up to the wood country, and cut down for thyself there in the land of the Perizzites and of the giants, if Mount Ephraim be too narrow for thee." Okay? Here's Joshua telling the children of the people that just died in the wilderness because they were fearful of these giants, right? He tells their children, he says, "Hey, if you don't think you got enough land and you're too big for the area that you're given, go tackle those giants again." Right? We just did it once. We're here. Let's expand. You go out there and you do it again. But not only that, but it's going to be tougher because now you have to go out to the wood country. You got to go chop your way through this. You have to pick up the axe. You have to do the work if you want the blessing. Right?
Okay, you fight your way through this. You stop acting like a little baby bird waiting for God to drop everything in your mouth, like these claim it and frame it nonsense people. Like they're going to hold God to a contract. Let's see how well that works for you.
Well, and additionally there too, you look at how valuable wood was and just timber, as a building material in that area at that time, and how much wood they had to import not too long after that, just to be able to build the temple, to be able to build all the structures that they were required to build, that just
they didn't have any wood there, guys. It was
before and after that time period, there was an enormous demand for wood that had to be imported. And here they're sitting on this resource and just not doing anything with it.
Side note, Jesus being a carpenter is absolutely inaccurate. The word was tecton. He was a stonemason. He wasn't out there like hammering wood and having, a nice little manger in a farm scene with all the fences and the barns like we have here. No, they were in caves. He was a stonemason, and the word was tecton, and it was translated carpenter. So we got a little bit of error there happening if we don't understand the original text. So, and I'm going to go back to the DNR here in the state of Michigan, which is clear cutting the north part of Michigan right now. And they're literally burning this stuff and cutting off trails. So we, the people who own it, have no access. I've been there. I have seen it. I'm working with people that are up there to chase these giant monsters out of this state. They're evil. These people are evil.
Yeah, you look at the account of Solomon and how many how much lumber, like cypress and such, was given to Solomon effectively as tribute. Wood was valuable.
Especially cedar.
Yeah, cedar, cypress, both of those.
Yep.
And just anything, any kind of wood, really. There's value to wood, especially in a wood poor area.
You brought up the point, Donna, that it's highly possible that Moses did not bring the children in because they would fall right back into idolatry, right? And that was a valid point, because the end of this little excerpt here, they're already complaining about their land. Joshua tells them, go in and take it then, right? Expand. Go take the rest of the land from the Canaanites up there. Then what did, let's see, he tells them, yeah, thou art a great people and hast great power. Oh, hold on a minute. Oh, no. Okay. Yeah. Joshua tells them to go in and take the land, right? Go cut through the wood country, go take the land of the Canaanites. And then the children of Joseph, right? They say, well, the hill's not enough for us. It says all the Canaanites that dwell in the land have chariots of iron. Where have we heard this kind of stuff before, right? Both they who are of Beth-shean and her towns, and they who are of the valley of Jezreel, that whole area there. It's like, hey, these people are huge. They're immense. They're built. They're structured. They have their own, guess what? Militia, right? They have their own fighting force
said
here.
That naughty word.
We don't have enough to be able to take this on. Joshua turns to him and says, hey, you're a great people. You've already admitted it, right? You admitted you're a vast people. You have great power. It says you're not going to have just this one lot. But the mountain will be yours, for its wood, and you'll cut it down, and the goings of it will be thine, and thou shalt drive out the Canaanites, though they have chariots of iron, right? Though they be strong, though they be an immense people, though there be giants, right? Who cares? Are not these the same people who watched their fathers curse God and die in the wilderness, who watched their fathers come across the Jordan River and inherit the land, and then they still stand there and give the same excuses that they did early on, right? This is a perfect example, and it's just one of thousands where the people of God continually make the same excuses for not doing the things that they're called to do, right?
Well, their eyes are on their own weaknesses and not letting God live through them and help them. It's a lack of faith. It's a lack of even knowing God. And in the Bible, there's so many stories where God has told us, you can walk right through the middle of your enemies. They won't even see you. You don't have to be afraid. If you stand, if you are filled with the Holy Spirit through the atoning death of Jesus Christ, you have not only the authority, but the power of God himself that will walk you right through it. There's no fear. And that's one of the biggest things that I see between people who actually are saved, and I'm going to say it, and people who are not. They do not have that unwavering fear or that unwavering courage. They're full of fear. And the people that walk with God, they'll just like say, give it your best shot here, because, I have a Father that's bigger than anything you can throw at me. And it's really funny. When I tell people, and I've said it online so many times, nobody can kill me. And they're like, oh, what you say? Oh, what you say? The wonderful church people, what do you mean they can't kill you? That's apostasy. No, it's not. It's their lack of faith, because it's God himself that numbers our days. It is not any man that can end our lives. If you're walking with God, God Almighty has your days numbered. And so why do we be afraid? You run right into the fire. You go forward. You make every second that you've been given count, not for yourself, but for the people around us, for God himself, for his world. And you make every second count.
yeah, you might be able to take this body from me, but guess what? You're actually giving me my real ID, right?
Oh, I like that. Let's get the
Now,
real ID going by people of faith.
well, and that's one thing. I mean, people have this mindset when you hand your driver's license for identification or your state ID or whatever you got, passport, birth certificate, et cetera, et cetera. Oftentimes, you will be asked the question as they're looking at it. They will say, "Is this you?" Right? Well, no, it's not you. That's only a card that has your picture on it. You are you. You are living. You're not a piece of plastic. Quit answering that question with a yes. Right?
Dang, I think the Amish have it right by making no graven image here,
Now here's the thing. This whole story with Joseph and Ephraim and Manasseh and taking the land. I wanted to tie this in because Americans here, right? We don't have anything else to conquer. Our forefathers have already done that for us, right? They've sweat, they've teared, they've bled across this entire land, giving us the possession that we have, right? We don't have to go take new areas. What we have to do is secure the areas that have been given to us, right? That's the difference. We're not even going to fight as hard as Ephraim and Manasseh had to. We just have to maintain the securities of our states, right? We have to be able to hold to our laws. We have to be able to hold to judgment and justice and hold these people accountable that are trying to remove our ancient landmarks, right? Who we are. If you've never been to your state capitals, do so. Go look around, snoop around at what's written on the walls and inscribed in the bricks. Go to your Supreme Courts, right? Look around there. Look for the hidden objects that they've been trying to keep from eyesight, right? Because I guarantee you will find the blessings hidden in those old inscribed bricks back from the 16, 17, 1800s. You'll find them. And I almost guarantee they're in every state, right? Maybe not Hawaii. I don't know. I've never been out to Hawaii. But for the most part, you will find them in your state. Understand them, learn from where we came, and learn from what we have to do to right the wrongs. Okay? Whether or not we want to look to a government administration or some other agency to do their job correctly or rightly, I'm not going to bank on that, right? I wouldn't even bet a quarter of my money to say that that's going to happen. But I do know it's my responsibility to make it happen. So for my children's sake, I have to stand up and give them the best that I can give them so that they can inherit it and do the exact same thing. Because for the rest of the time this earth remains, the wicked people will always do what wicked people do, right? You shouldn't be surprised when some corrupt politician stands up and go, "Oh my, he violated the Constitution." No, of course they're going to violate the Constitution.
Oh,
they
yeah,
will
like big
always
surprise there.
Yeah, they will always do what their natural man wants to do, right? It's the people's job to put a stop to it.
If they weren't naturally drawn to violating the Constitution and the principles therein, then the Constitution would not have to have been written down.
That's right. It is the chains which bind the government,
which is evil at this point in time.
Yep. Well, all governments are inherently evil, right? They work on the nature of force. A republic is one of those few that actually work on the nature of the people themselves, right?
That's like giving a lot of credit to people making good decisions. And the only way you can do that is if you base your life on serving God Almighty, because you will always serve yourself if you're not serving someone who's greater. You have to serve God or you're lost. I had people years ago when I was teaching some classes in a university setting. I was asked to speak at a university and they're like, well, what have you done? So I gave them, my resume, which is pretty long. And they asked her, like, have you ever failed? I'm like, that's kind of a ignorant question, but of course I have. Everyone has. And sometimes things just aren't meant to happen at the time that you're putting things out there business wise, but it comes around and you learn from it. And you know, the thing they said, well, how is it that you've had success? And I'm like, because I refuse to fail. It's not the success that I'm after. It's the fact that I refuse to fail when things get difficult. But the only reason why that works is you have to have something greater than yourself to believe in, that comes down to a moral and the drive that you have. And I'm going to tell you that this is the only way we're going to right this nation. You're not going to get out of bed in the morning like the majority of people that are on entitlements, which are not entitlements. That's slavery of the working population of the United States. It is, you will not get, well, I don't know, I could go work on getting, my business up, or learning something, or learning the law, or God forbid, running for office. I'm so busy. I don't have time for that. I have kids and 100 other excuses, right? But if you get up every morning and you have something greater for yourself to perform, you will ignore the golf course. You will ignore all of these things that pull us away from having a purpose and fighting when there seems no hope. You will get up. You will spend full time planning the demise of those people who have planned your demise, or the demise of everything you love. It's not fighting for success. It's refusing to fail and fighting for a purpose that's bigger than yourself. If you haven't found that, you'll never succeed. I don't care what anybody ever tells me. No one succeeds in that way. And the people that have had any success that have not taken on, they're being paid by the evil forces that are out there. Guaranteed. And I would take that debate with anyone.
And in the words of the great Curly Howard, if at first you don't succeed, keep on sucking till you do succeed.
Well, isn't that what happened with some of our public functionaries? I'm not like saying in this same way. Isn't that like does that like apply to Kamala? Kamala. All right.
Well,
sorry.
I would take that a little bit farther to say that that it's not necessarily the refusal to fail. It's a refusal to quit after you fail.
Or capitulate to evil.
Yep, because I will guarantee that anyone who gets involved, you will have failure points, right? And I for one love failure, because if I succeed at something, right, I know of one way to do it. If I fail several times before I succeed, I can warn you that many times not to do it that way, right? It strengthens your success when you fail.
Huge teacher. The people that have had things easy every step of the way, they're worthless, because if they get in a real conflict, they will be so demoralized and knocked out that they will not find creative ways around the evil. It's like, it's paralyzing. If you've had to swim through the swamp with alligators biting at your feet and biting you every once in a while, and trying to take you under, you get pretty good at poking them in the eye, right? Or, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I got to swim with sharks. You better be pretty good at turning around and just like punching them right in the snout and making them run, not trying to swim away from them. You hit that problem head on so they don't come back again.
Yep. Yeah. It's not just enough to wound the enemy. When you're fighting spiritual battles, you have to take it all the way back to Genesis 3 and crush the head of them, right? That is the purpose of it. You have to not give any quarter, right? And that goes back to what I was just talking about with the Israelites and Canaanites, right? And several other times. They were caused to utterly annihilate, utterly destroy certain people, right? Why? Because they were committing abominations before God, right? And God's chosen people were called to inherit the land, go in, drive them out, utterly destroy them, right? But several times, whether they be compassionate or just out of sheer covetousness, they managed to leave some of them alive, or even in Joshua's time, contract with your local neighbors who you are supposed to be driving out of the land, right? Well, what does that bring? You bring a curse upon yourself, right? Nonetheless, that they did then. Granted, they ended up having servants and such, but the people were still there. And one of the things that we're warned about, I think it's in Jeremiah, where he talks about when the nations, when we allow other gods in our nations, in our streets, right? When we allow that to happen, there will be war. That is a promise that's given. And I take a hard line on that. That's why when I talk about religion, it is specific to the original definition of it. It's not pagan occultic practices, right? That was the basis of our heritage here in the United States. I'm sorry, these United States. I quit saying that. And it should forever be that if we're willing to keep it. Otherwise, we can expect the same wars that we have, but even more so, we're going to hand to our children for them to do the same thing.
I'm going to put something up that Ralph, you posted, because remember, you bite that poison apple of money from the federal government, all of our municipalities are broken. You start biting that poison apple of food and it's going to bite you. Check this out. Would you like to comment, Ralph?
Yeah, well, they did that, and then they also made a big deal about cutting this was actually part of kind of an organized plan that first of all, they've got it where they're blaming it on the funding cuts.
Oh yeah, we got a lousy indoctrination system, and it's your fault because you didn't give us enough money to pay for a failure.
Yeah. So this is the current excuse for it. That we're going to be shutting this down because we didn't get enough money from the federal government.
Yeah, we're going to punish you.
But then they also kind of in tandem with this declared that they were going to drop the literacy requirements from the graduation requirements because requiring a standard to be able to graduate disproportionately affects people of color, which is, to even say that is, in my mind, incredibly racist.
Oh, they're saying that they're dumber. That's what they're saying.
That's exactly it. And to not have that universal standard there is incredibly racist.
Well, and like I talked about at the beginning, back in 1647, the essence of education was that people may be able to read so that they can read and understand the scripture. When you take away the reading ability, how are they to do it? Right? The best you got is hopefully somebody's out there preaching that they may hear it and actually learn it. However, it's the reading of it that will retain it in your mind. And it's the practice of it that you'll actually see the fulfillment and the power that we have in overcoming through the Spirit, right?
Yeah, so they now have a State Department of Education that isn't requiring people to learn to read, write, or do math. What the heck is the point of the education system then?
There is
if we're not going to teach even basic educational skills? And the Federal Department of Education is also not holding them accountable for this. So what's the point of...
Nap time and candy are always good, Ralph.
Yeah. And so at that point, anybody complaining about cuts to the Federal Department of Education, which also shouldn't exist anyway, and anyone saying that, oh, you can't cut that because how will you're just cutting education and how will people learn? Well, you've got a Federal Department of Education that's not requiring the state to educate their students. And then you've got a State Department of Education that's not educating the students. So what are any of these agencies doing?
Babysitting. Okay? They're babysitting and taking control of the indoctrination and raising up our children. I'm going to say this is a problem. If you leave your kids all day long and you're going to work, we had a huge discussion last night, And it was kind of funny about the nonsense of the feminazi movement and women not being in the home. I'm going to tell you, it's like I worked the whole time, but I took my kids with me. And when they were little, they learned to sit in a business meeting, and they are pretty polite and they're pretty professional to this day because they learned that when they were children. I wasn't running their butts around to every crackpot socialist time-filling nonsense that has no go past the 4th medal they've received in high school. How's that going to help them in life? They don't know how to balance a checkbook. They don't know how to create a business. So now they're completely dependent on the system to give them a job or find a job. I had somebody, when this dawned on me years ago, when I first started, buying real estate and fixing it up. I did all my own construction, and yes, I can do every form of construction. There's a couple I won't do, but I've done everything. I framed in, I put kitchens in, I know how to drywall. I know how to do pretty much everything because I didn't have any money at the time. So I had to do my own work, right? And somebody came to me and they're like, they were in college, okay? Mommy and daddy were paying the bill. Dumb plan. Make them work for their successes because they learned something. You're not doing any favors to pave the way and make it easy for your kids. No matter what society said, they have to learn. They're like, I need to find a job. I'm having a problem. I'm like, okay, so make one. This person looked at me like I grew a hand out of the top of my head, like, what? Make a job? How do you make a job? What do you do? And I'm well, let's see. What can you do? Let's assess assets here. You can probably clean, though I can't confirm that because I haven't seen your house. But you could go pick up a job that so many people think are beneath them, and they're not willing to do it. Well, I can't do that. I got to work within my field. Well, you know what? Maybe sometimes you don't. Maybe sometimes you shovel horse manure. Maybe sometimes you clean. Maybe sometimes you do things that nobody else is. That was one of the greatest statements I learned from an actual professor in college. There were some nuggets there amongst the idiots, is that you really want to be successful, do the jobs that nobody wants to do at inconvenient times, that is not comfortable. That's where you're going to make the money. It's not the cushy jobs. It's not the jobs where you sit there and pontificate gender study nonsense to people that already know what it is to be a female or a male. I'm not confused. What a worthless pursuit. Get married. You'll get it figured out real pretty fast, really. And so, but it's like do the jobs that are the worst jobs. You will always have job security. You will never be without a job. People in business cannot hire people now because nobody wants to work. And if they do, it's the phone constantly. What? I got to work? I got a life here, I got to go and play with my friends on the weekend. Pretty extra sure that wasn't part of the deal when God created us, but maybe it's just me. So, well, Greg's sitting back there being real patient here. I should bring him into the discussion right now. Hey, Greg, how you doing? I can't hear you. Your sound's off.
There we go. Sorry about it.
Yeah,
what a great discussion. I didn't have any problem sitting back and listening.
Yeah, laughing at all of us because we say what everybody else wants to say, and we're like, all right, come and attack me and prove me wrong on any of this stuff. And you better have a good argument, otherwise you're going to walk away looking real stupid.
Amen.
Well, our entire education system too was geared for basically setting up a surf class of kids that grew up in a situation where they are told to sit still and basically do the exact kind of things that they are supposed to be required to do when they are hired by a big corporation once they graduate.
Didn't the Bible talk about this somewhere? Is it escaping me right now that God talked about children running amok at the end of time?
Yeah, of sorts. And not only that, but even back in Proverbs, Solomon in his wisdom sat down and said, a child left to himself will bring his mother to shame. Right? Yet we have the mothers dropping the children off in indoctrination camps. Listen, anybody that's got kids, right? Get them out of public schools. If you want to see the system collapse, quit training up your next generation to follow the system.
Well,
right?
and everybody wants to pity kids. Okay, I'm going to say it. All 3-year-olds are a form of terrorism against their parents. Okay, this is the way it is. They've got full time to figure out how to screw with you, and and figure out ways to not do the right thing. They got great hearts. I'm not saying that the kids are bad. I love kids. I love being a mom. I absolutely love my children, but they don't always do the right thing. And when you say that all kids are altruistic, you clearly have never parented a child.
No, every child will eventually try to kill itself or try to kill you or both, right? It's your job to prevent that from happening.
Yes,
So
it's
get
truth.
over it and do it.
Well said, Bill.
It's like you never thought you'd have to say the words like this. Don't touch that part of the dog. Because the dog is going to turn around and bite you. And it's like, well, what's this? No, don't touch that part of the dog. Things are going to go poorly here,
Yep.
So anyhow, well, we're going to go to a quick break, and I'm going to bring back. Do you guys have anything last words to say, Bill and Ralph? And then I'm going to go to a quick break right now, and then I'll be right back with Greg.
You talked about building business, Donna, and I try not to talk about things that I haven't experienced, though sometimes, I'm still young. I'm only like 37 or something. Sometimes I get into topics that I have not actually walked through the fire on, but I can just read a little bit of truth about them. But in building business, that is one that I have, because our entire construction business started out cleaning toilets at the airport, right? That's where we started, as janitorial work. And I learned a lot back then. I learned not to slack off, because people that have to sit on dirty toilets are worse to deal with than bosses that you don't file the right paperwork for, right? Nobody likes sitting on dirty toilets.
I'm going to tell you what I learned when I started, because I did all my own cleaning, as Calvin College students that mommy and daddy are paying their tuition with. Oh, my little angel is here. Your little angel is a stripper. And also, they are not above peeing on the floor because they are flat drunk, and or ruining the neighbor's fence as she's going through chemo. This is Calvin College students, I'm going to tell you, and not realizing she's gone through a mastectomy and not caring and taking her life. And, and it's not just that, people want to virtue signal me. It's like, talk to the hand. Because I used to clean up and do all my own cleaning. Besides that, see all the lies that are put forward. Oh, our little angels are staying in this house, and I can abuse you and your children, only to see the boys, pile out the next morning after mom and dad left, and tell me how perfect their kids are. And it's like, yeah, I think you got a problem here with your check on reality, And it's not the way people think it is. And we have to train ourselves to see people in office the same way. It's a lie. It's an illusion. And we have to get real, be real, and tell the truth, even if they don't want to hear it.
Amen.
So, there you go. Well, we're going to go on that note. We're going to go on to a nice little, I'm going to turn myself into, what is it, Bob? What's the painter's name?
Bob Ross.
Bob Ross. I'm going to Bob Ross, everybody. We're going to go to a happy little break, and we will be back with Greg. And we'll all be back on next week. Bill, Ralph, and I are all involved in the Constitution Party, which is under the label unconstitutionally the U.S. Taxpayers Party via the criminal Jocelyn Benson and Jonathan Brader, but I think they're going to have a problem with this. But at any rate, we're all involved in the Constitution Party. And so if you have any questions on the Constitution or how it's supposed to be run, I would say that this is kind of a good source. I give kudos. Let's see. I got it on backwards. I give kudos to that guy right there, because he actually knows it. So Bill, thanks for being here. And you too, Ralph, and we'll be back just in about a minute. Okay.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye. morning and welcome to the second hour of Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg and it is the 7th day of May 2025. Welcome to our show today. Great conversation with Bill and Ralph and Greg, and I'm bringing without any further delay, Greg on. How you doing today, Greg?
Wonderful. Great to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. It's great to start the day out with a little rousing conversation, as it were, and bringing the truth out here of the criminals in office and the criminals that are enabling other criminals to do their job and other criminals covering up for criminals and people abdicating their responsibility from the top to the bottom.
That's pretty much most of our trustees and our servants.
And people who don't raise their own children and the teachers that are indoctrinating them and, you know, we might as well just do a South Park here and like call out everybody.
And the transhumanists that want to change the entire country to fake people. So I thought that Trump did a great job by opening up the cabinet meetings, and I thought the last one was really interesting with Mr. Kennedy telling us that 300,000 kids that have been lost, they're trying to find them. How does our government lose 300,000 children?
Well,
it seems like an incompetent government.
Since so many of them are involved in pedophilia and other acts of Satanism, I think we've got our answer right there. You know what? You got to have a supply of them to sacrifice to whatever horrible entity that they follow, and you know, whatever else they're doing with these kids, which is just horrible. I can't. I don't know. I'm just not going to be silent about it anymore. This has gone way too far. And the people that are involved in any of the Church of Satan, every single one of them needs to be taken to task on it. And you don't even have to investigate them for a crime. They have literally been involved in human sacrifice, mutilation, etc. There's a couple of really good investigators that I follow who have chased down the Order of the Nine Angles, 764, some of these cults that are out there, and how they prey on our children who parents sometimes have walked away from, sometimes who have just unfortunately gotten into bad groups, who are looking for a place to belong, and they are literally victimizing these kids. And the outcome, they get them to do their dirty work because they're sick psychopaths. They're not right. And
that's what CPS was created for. It's that they needed more children to feed the beast. So literally they just created their own administrative agency and started unconstitutionally taking, you know, hundreds of thousands of kids.
Millions, I would say, because if you start looking over the years and what they've done, I mean, the largest human trafficking organization, I don't know if I can say the world, but I can certainly say in North America, is CPS, Homeland, HHS, CPS. They are a human trafficking organization, and they work with the unconstitutional NGOs in order to move, facilitate, traffic, and smuggle human beings for their sick, psychopathic purposes. They're not protecting anybody. They're literally getting paid $1 million per kid to legally kidnap kids away from families. They can say whatever they want. Just like the DNR, there's no accountability. They can take whatever they want, and they can try to, you know, slap lipstick on the pig and make it sound okay, but it's still a pig.
And that's why we need to get the Epstein files released. We need the people identified that were part of that program. Trump said he was going to do it when he got into office. He hasn't done it yet. My guess is it's so egregious that it's going to be hard for America to heal from it, but it doesn't matter. We have to open it up. It should not be private. It should be out in the open, and we should all know about it. And the people that are still in government, I believe, I think many of them are still in Washington.
Notice how quiet everybody is in office.
They need to be, you know, prosecuted for treason. I mean, it is clear we need to go after them, and that's obviously one of the reasons that we're here to talk today, and hopefully we can give people a process, a path forward, so that people know exactly what can they do. You know, I used to sit around with my wife and watch Fox News and some of the other things and try to figure out, well, what can we do to get involved? And everybody talks about voting, voting, voting. You know what? That's not going to change our government back and take it back for we the people. It has to be. We have to learn our constitutions. Obviously, Bill knows the constitutions, and Ralph as well. Obviously, you. We need everyone in this country to learn it, understand how we can get our own redress of grievance from our government officials, and we're doing it on a daily basis. So
the political parties in the system of our elections is criminally complicit with the government. The GOP, the Democrat Party, it's all the same. They're taking foreign money there. They have marching instructions, and so you're having your time wasted by sitting there and listening to these, not you personally, but anybody out there that is involved in this. You're talking some very low IQ discussions on people that they're trying to have you go, oh, I'm following this person or this person or this person. They give you two choices. Well, guess what? They both
which is unconstitutional in and of itself. I mean, we need to get rid of the two parties. We need to go back to holding. I don't care whether you're Republican or Democrat. We need to hold you accountable. And when we start holding them accountable and we start prosecuting for treason the people that are committing transgressions against the people, but in order to do that, we have to understand who is we the people. They have made us trustees. They put us into the trust, and we need to understand what that means and get ourselves out of it and start notifying our trustees and hold them liable for all of these acts that they have, unlawfully committed.
I'm gonna bring something up because somebody from your group, Andrew, and I'm not sure how to say his last name, P-R-Y. Yeah, I don't know how to say his last name, but he popped up yesterday, and it was in the discussion on Axe My Tax, which is tax abatement supposedly pretended for dummies. And he brought up the fact that we don't have to have more legislation on this. We already have everything we need, and laid it all out. I'm going to try to get him on here to argue the point with me that this is, first of all, it's disguised protection for the corporations. That's what. No,
I did speak to Andrew about potentially joining me. This is a difficult time for him, as it probably is for a lot of people that work.
We're all busy working, right? But
yeah,
he sent me the everything. It was really, I love it when people send me the things that they have and they know that I may or may not know. I was going off on the fact that this is disguised protection for the corporations. That's exactly what this is about.
That's exactly how
it is. This has nothing to do with protecting or getting rid of taxes for the state of Michigan. This is about shifting taxes and how they're doing it, and they're going to shift it back on us in discretionary ways or other ways. It's trying to, and that's why they're buying up single family homes and real estate across the United States to shove into these big corporations.
Well,
like they need any more money except they want to own it all.
It's a pyramid, and the government. I mean, our federal government has accumulated, an enormous stock full of land, and then they've taken our land as we the people, and they put them as trustees over our land. So we don't even have private land like it should be in America.
They destroyed all the lodial titles. They've destroyed everything.
Well, they've destroyed it, but it's still there. It's just hidden. We have to learn how we access it and what we're supposed to do. And once we know what public versus private is, and once we understand as living beings, we operate in the private, not the public. And it's that, knowledge base that has been held from us in our schools with our children. You said something earlier about homeschooling. We need to go back to homeschooling so that parents teach their kids about the constitutions and our rights. Our rights are excluded from that contract, from that trust agreement, excluded, and no law, none, zero, can ever be written to infringe on my rights for myself and my posterity.
Yes,
So
that was instructions for the government, not the people. That was to constrain the
exactly,
government, but it has nothing to do with us.
nothing to
I
do with us.
I homeschooled my kids, and of course I'm old, and my kids are well grown up now. They're all in their 30s, and so and pretty close to 40 for one of them here. And so it's like when you look at the ability to homeschool, I would tell everybody, consider, really consider homeschooling and spending time with your children. The greatest thing that kids want is time with mom and dad. But if you don't give them the time, if you don't sit and talk with them, if you don't parent your kids and develop a relationship with you, they're going to find somebody else. And that's just the way it is. But they want their time with you. They love their time with their parents. And as they get older, that becomes more important. And oh, by the way, as a horse person, if you want to keep your girls away from guys when they're younger, get them a freaking horse. They won't even look at men until they're like 30 years old and can actually, they'll be like, oh man. I had my daughter say that one time. She dumped her husband, which is now her husband, her boyfriend, who is now her husband. And she's like, man, I'm just looking around and I'm like, I like my horse better than my boyfriend. I can't do this. Dumped him. They both grew up after 5 years, and she ended up marrying him.
Well, hopefully my daughter ends up having that same story. She's very much into horses, and she just recently broke up with her boyfriend, but
did she say the same thing? I like my horse better than my boyfriend.
Well, she actually likes her boyfriend a lot, her ex-boyfriend a lot, but she loves her horses, and she just wants her boyfriend to be like her horses.
Yeah, that's right. Give your kids give your daughters a horse, and you won't even have to think about birth control.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
Oh, she wakes up every morning and works very hard on her farm and just speaks to those horses, and then she's trying to convert her boyfriend into a subservient horse. So it's a process.
It is. And horsewomen just don't put up with a lot of crap from anybody.
No, they don't. They don't.
It's a great turning thing. Sorry, I digress. I went
That's
right
okay.
up into the.
That's okay. We can digress.
Yeah.
We can digress.
So what are we talking about? I pulled up your point of clarity notice for maladministration. And by the way, I thank everyone that you're working with in the the We the People notices and all these wonderful people. I'd love to have all of them on someday so that people can see who is involved in this process and the learning and the coaching and such. I think this is amazing. Even though I'm fighting within the court system, because I just want to shove it right in their faces and make them face it. And they're making bad mistakes, like literally 5 attorneys on me in the Attorney General's office. I'm like, fantastic. This is great. Let's draw them right out of the shadows.
Yeah.
And hand them their tails. And these people are not that big of a threat, really. They're not. We're not talking the sharpest tool in the shed here.
Well, and the worst part is they're doing that with our money, with We the People's money, and they are attacking you, and they're bringing out 5 attorneys because their goal is to overwhelm you, and they recognize they have an unlimited pocketbook that they can crush just about anybody. So most people will take that and then they will acquiesce and they'll be scared.
They have had a huge failure in their ability to assess the real situation here.
And again, I hate to keep going back to your first hour, but
no.
Bill said it, you repeated it, and it's so true. We have to learn. I don't fear government anymore at all. I did probably 10 years ago. I feared the fact that they could knock on my door and put me in handcuffs. I don't fear that. I know my rights. I know what they are. I know how to protect them. And that's the key. Once you know your rights, you understand your rights from the Constitution, you learn to protect them. God gave me those rights, not man, not my government. I mean, and then we gave limited powers. My rights are my powers. And we gave very limited powers to our servants, our trustees. And we need to understand what that means and take those rights back. And you only need to fear God. I don't intend, and most people don't intend to transgress against my neighbor. And if I'm not going to transgress against my neighbor, I'm not going to hurt him. I'm not going to steal his property. I'm not going to, do something that's going to put myself at harm. And once you learn that and you only fear God above, it makes man, and it makes our government, it opens your eyes to what government is. Get rid of your ego, and your ego only gets in the way of having that relationship with our Father and through the Holy Spirit. So
we should approach everything in life with service, a service mind. And I mean, even the smallest detail, like we were talking about cleaning toilets and such. I mean, I can't even tell you how many properties and how many toilets I cleaned and what I've done over the years, and you feel a sense of pride when you leave there, go, wow, I did what, I did a good job here. You feel good about that. But if you look at what's really happening in the world at large, most of it's about coveting what other people have.
It is, because unfortunately, that's what we teach our kids. I mean, the wrong way. I mean, we teach them through their phones, and I mean, it's all about gathering assets and more assets, and not loving your neighbor as yourself. I mean, not helping your neighbor. It's about keeping your information to yourself rather than sharing it and giving it to everybody so that we all know. I mean, God, our Father, gave us the United States of America for a reason. And we are a republic, and we need to understand that republic gives us our rights, and that is to love our neighbor. And if we don't love our neighbor as ourselves, and we don't treat them as we do ourselves and look out for them as much as we look out for ourselves,
or more,
especially our children. I mean, they are our posterity. We have to do even more to protect them from our government and from the tyranny, the CPS, and I mean, all the other negative things that our government is attempting to do with our children to put them in that subservient state so they will do whatever our government says through a statute or a code. Those statutes and codes are only meant to guide our servants on what they are supposed to do to protect our rights. Those have nothing to do with us as we the people. I operate in the private. Everyone should operate in the private when you're not working for your government or you're a trustee and you're serving someone else. I mean, right now we need to understand what that means, and we need to follow that. And we need to know, okay, when our government does overstep their bounds, which they have for the last 150 years, and we've just completely ignored what and why they did it. I mean, this was a concerted effort, and it was a slow, methodical process to get ownership, to get rid of the republic, to turn us into effectively a democracy, to overlay it on top of the republic, to strip your rights away, and to give you some privileges back that make you feel like you live in a free country. Democracy is not a free country.
It's mob rule.
It's mob rule. And unfortunately, I never learned in school the difference between the republic and a democracy. It took me learning it in the last 5 years, pretty much at the end of my career. And I learned it, thank goodness, because of what God put us through to wake us up. I mean, COVID woke up a good portion of the country. It showed us what tyranny is. It showed us what our government was doing. And the people are so powerful. There's only one thing that scares our trustees more than anything else, and that's the knowledge of what the republic stands for and how do we, the people, get our grand juries back in our control, to get redress of grievance. How do we notify these trustees that, because I think most of them deep down, they think they're good people. The problem is if they don't know the law, which they don't, and that includes all three branches. That includes people that are literally in the judicial branch. The majority of them don't know the law. They know the procedurals law. They know rules of civil and criminal procedure. They do not know the fundamental common law. That is the law of the land and the maxims of law. And that's what
they take orders. And so, well, this is the procedure for this, and this is how I was like, nobody stops to say, but is this lawful? Is this right? No, you want a job, you got to follow the procedure.
Well, and to go back, you guys were talking about the driver's license and the IDs, these fake real IDs that are coming around. Again, they are
surveillance.
It's all about surveillance. It's all about keeping control. And I think it was Bill that said on the ID, the officer will hold it up and he'll say, is this a picture of you? Well, all he's trying to do on a camera that's recording your response, he wants you to say yes. And the reason he wants you to say yes, it is not, or he says, is this you? He wants you to say yes because he wants to be in contract with you. Because the minute he puts you in contract, he removes you from a living being and he puts you into, their jurisdiction. Because if you haven't harmed anyone, when he pulled you over, he has no jurisdiction over you. He only has jurisdiction to protect another one of we the people, another person that's operating as a king or queen who is sovereign in this country. So when that officer looks at that and tries to get you to affirm that is a contract with him, then he has you. He's entrapped you. And
how do you respond to that?
Well, it's real simple. No, I am who I am. I am sui juris. I'm operating in the private. I have you mentioned PMA earlier, and we shouldn't need PMAs.
Right.
But we do need PMAs. I have a PMA with my wife. I'm operating in the private. Did I harm someone, your officer? Be very kind to them. But at the end of the day, if I haven't harmed anyone, and there's no oath or affirmation from a third party, because it can't come from one of my trustees. It can't come from one of my servants. He has no jurisdiction over me. He has no jurisdiction to even pull me over. And the only thing he's trying to do is put me in contract with him. Because the minute I enter into contract with him, then he has you. So as long as you're operating in the private and you're not harming another individual, our job is to be loving and caring to our fellow neighbors. So, but you have to understand the difference between operating in the private and operating in the public. Now, if I'm operating in the public and I'm an Uber driver and I've got a passenger in my back seat, then he has jurisdiction over me. So then he can ask me those questions. But I am not going to be in contract with him as a private entity. First of all, we've converted all of our trustees into these private entities. CPS, even our court system. We've converted our court system, and Judge Gorsuch says this in his book Overruled, that we've converted our entire court system into Article 1 legislative procedural courts. Well, those courts don't apply to me as a sui juris, one of we the people. That court doesn't apply to me. Those statutes and codes that they want to try to attach to me can't attach to me as long as I go in and protect my rights. But the minute I have to hire an attorney, that attorney puts me into their jurisdiction. That attorney converts me from a real living being into one of them, a dead vessel that walked into that courtroom. So it's, again, it can get very complicated. It doesn't need to be complicated. You have to know simplicity, God's word, God's law. What is a right? What is a privilege? You have rights as a living being. They don't want to talk about your rights. They don't want to call them rights. In fact, they change the definitions so that you are entrapped into their system. And
I like how they tell you that they're going to allow you to do this, that, or the other thing. If you're a good little boy or girl and you pay them for whatever, action that you want, then they'll, then you're okay. And I'm not okay with this. It's extortion.
It's extortion. It's extortion. We need more conflicts with our government so that we can, and we are going directly at them so that we can show to we the people that we really are the sovereigns in America. I mean, our government, it's learning the history. It's going back and understanding what the Federalist and Anti-Federalist really were arguing over. How did they want to structure this country? What rights were we going to retain? We retained them all. We retained them all. They're not even part of the trust. But you know what? They created a new trust over the top of it, and they get you to sign up for it through a birth certificate or a social security card or a driver's license or 1040s, all of this bogus stuff in order to monitor and manage you. And the way we can get out of it is our Constitution gave us some powerful tools. And, we need to protect the trustees that are willing to do the people's work. And there are some of them out there that are doing it. But we need to protect them, and we can protect them. In fact, we just did a notice to Trump, Dave Jose did this weekend. And it is effectively to give him control to do what he's doing and completely ignore the court system. I mean, we the people control it, our government, not legislators or, judges that are gone rogue, that literally aren't following the law. They're following their statutes. The executive branch is not the judicial branch, and the judicial branch is not the legislative branch. They are three separate branches for a reason.
Yeah, they don't dictate what the executive branch does.
Well, they shouldn't, but they certainly are, and they're certainly putting nationwide, injunctions against our president that is effectively doing the will of the people. We put him there for a reason. He received the number of votes he received for a reason. Now we have to
cheat their way out of it. Too big to rig.
You're right, and the way we're going to get ourselves out of it is the people. We the people have to do our job. The trust is the trust. We hire trustees. Trustees are servants. All they're allowed to do is what the Constitution, the Republic Constitution, gave them the authority to do. We talk about the Department of Education, and you were going through where I guess was it Oregon that they had taken $2.5 million. You know what? The federal government should have $0 going to states.
I
to
agree.
Run our education system. Get rid of the DOE. Get rid of it completely. And the way we're going to do it is we the people need to learn. We need to know what positive law versus non-positive law is. We need to know where the federal government has overstepped their bounds. Give those rights back to the state. So give those, controls back to the state. Let the states compete for our education. We will have the greatest education system in the world. Right now, we have just about the worst. And the only way it's going to get better is if we take that control back and we put it where it's supposed to be, local. We are a local driven government, not a national. We're not top down. And one of the things I like to do is, the government starts with we the people. That's individual. That's all of us. Neighbors. And then where does it go? It goes another level up and another level up. We need to take our country back The Supreme Court has already flipped. We have control of the Supreme Court that has said repeatedly in the last 2 years, the fundamental common law is the law of the land. Now, attorneys, they can't accept this. They can't accept it. There are 1.4 million attorneys in the country. The Senate Judiciary Committee already sent a notice to the president of the American Bar Association last month and put them on notice. You are a criminal organization. Read the footnotes of that letter. Powerful. We have put them on notice. Pam Bondi's put them on notice at the Department of Justice. No connection while you are employed with the Department of Justice with the American Bar Association. There's a reason for that. At the end of the day, the law of the land is not their fake law, is not their civil and criminal rules of procedure. That is the law of the land for these corporations, these big companies, but not for we the people. And we have to understand, okay, well, then how do I get myself out of that law of the land? How do I put myself back into, the maxims of law and God's law? And the way to do it is education. And the way to do it is notices and affidavits and redress of our grievances. And we will get, in America, mark my words, control of the grand juries. And once we do, they're holding it tight, and they have to. They have to keep it from we the people. How in the world can they keep grand juries from us in order to go after our trustees that are committing transgressions against the people? They've already admitted.
Yes.
They've admitted so many felonies. I mean, but I don't have to prove a felony for someone that's a trustee because they're a servant. They don't have my constitutional rights. They're not a living person to me. They are my trustee. And as long as they were elected by us and they're taking money from us, they must follow my rights.
I gotta bring something up with the Attorney General's office here, because you're exactly right. So what they ended up doing is sticking 5 attorneys within the Attorney General's office to defend somebody that broke the law. And instead of investigating that person.
Well, Donna, let me correct you. Let me correct you, though, because when you say they broke the law, they didn't break their law. They're living by a different law. And they have been giving themselves immunity. They have been circumventing the real fundamental law.
Right. So they even broke that law. And so now they had to defend this person against breaking the law. So they stick 5 attorneys in it. And this is where the problem is with this. That they are defending someone who did something fundamentally wrong, instead of saying, well, maybe we should investigate this. Maybe there should be an investigation. No, they went right into defending, breaking the law and trouncing on our rights. So this is a multi-layer attack. It really is, to restore the nation. And I applaud everyone who's willing to get in the fight where God tells us to fight. And that's an individual basis. But even though we're fighting, you and I are fighting on kind of the same thing to restore the law, we're coming at this from different directions.
We are.
And it's not that either one of us is wrong. It's that it kind of does work together, in my opinion, because I absolutely agree with what you've said, and everybody in your group. But mine is kind of going right up the front, right through the front line, and proving even with the way that they're doing it, with the rules that they're fake and pretended legislation. They can't even follow that.
They can't even follow that. I mean, they've taken so many things from we the people, but we're getting them back. I mean, we're getting back all of the writs are coming back. I mean, these are things that have been around for, thousands of years. They weren't created in America. I mean, these were things that people had to learn and get. I mean, back in 1215, I mean, they had to get writs of habeas corpus so that they understood, I mean, how is an innocent person that a king in other countries is going to put in prison? How do I get remedy for that? Well, in
Right.
America, it's a lot different. A writ of habeas corpus is actually coming from a king or a queen if we've been falsely imprisoned. And we now have the right to file those writs of habeas corpus directly with the Supreme Court or a federal district court. Skip all these lower courts. These lower Article 1 courts are literally circumventing the law. And the minute you go into their courtroom, they're able to overlay their statutes and codes, their criminal system, which is criminal against we the people. It really is a criminal organization against we the people.
I would agree with that.
And the only way to stop it is education and putting people, and I agree with you, putting people in the fight that are willing to fight it. And that brings us started. Can you do me one favor before we put this up? Do you have the elements of a notice that I sent you? I sent it to you by text. I wasn't able to put it in the chat.
Let me think.
And that's, if you can't, I can just read it because I think it's important for people to.
You know what? If you can email it to me again, don't say my email address out loud here, but email it again and I can bring it up that way.
All right.
Okay. Or you could actually probably put it in the.
I tried to put it down below and I'm not able to. So.
Okay. Just email it to me a minute and then we can bring it up. And then the nice thing is I can post it for everyone because we're going to have to learn this. And I'm going to give a shout out right now to Summer Cook because I did buy one of her books. And this goes back to being a homeschool mom and dad, grandma, whatever. Every single one of us can amass a library of resources and help other people around us. Buy the book, support people that are willing to do things like Summer Cook did, and get to know the material so you can talk intelligently about it, but also that we can, maybe you want to start a little summer, remember the summer Bible schools or the summer Bible camps, or maybe you could do a little summer camp to help the parents around you and so you really know the subject matter. Well, I actually taught courses on physics when my kids were very little. And I did that. I did all kinds of things for the homeschool community. Well, you can do this for your church community. You can do this for your community you live in. You can literally volunteer your time and teach classes. So why not start with Summer's books?
Couldn't agree more. Summer's books are so enlightening, and they're really not just meant for children because all of this information has been suppressed and hidden from us. They started suppressing it really in the 1700s. So to no fault of even our educators, because the educators don't know any better. This thing's been suppressed since before 1871. I mean, that's when Harvard University made the announcement that they were no longer going to teach fundamental common law. They were literally just going to switch.
Well, I want to give everybody a heads up here because I got about 20 minutes and I'm going to have to move on. But I just want everybody to know that Greg and I and the people that are working in We the People notices and such, are going to be building on this, just like I did with John Tater. And Mike Bambus is coming on board on this. And there's so many people out there. I've got another friend, Daniel Richards, who's been doing this out in New Hampshire. He was at the Constitution Party National Committee meeting, which I'm part of, the weekend before last. And so I want everybody to know that we will be building on this. Don't feel panicked if we don't get to something, because I can turn the camera anytime I want. Really, if there's an emergency that needs to be done, we can do that. But we're going to build on this because if we do too much information, it's very overwhelming.
It is.
And so we're going to do this one step at a time. Let's start with the simple
notice. Let's start. Go ahead and pull up the notice. I actually chose a very simple notice that we just completed.
Okay.
All of our notices focus on a singular issue. So it's real simple. This is the
one you just sent me?
That's the one. No, that's the one you pulled up before. If you can't pull up what I just sent you by text,
I can. I just waiting for it to come through. I can do this right now,
Okay.
and then as that comes in through email, sometimes there's a lag between when people get that to me and when I can save it off and pull it up. And yeah, I've got a Greg file now.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, you've made my file systems. If I find people significant, I actually will have a file on them. And so I don't know how many files I've got on people with information they've given me, but if you've made my file system, boom, you're in.
You should convert me from Greg to We the People, because truly this is not me. I mean, I've learned all of this through everyone in my group, which is phenomenal. So it is a collaborative effort.
I'm going to poke them all. Boom, boom, boom. That's
all right,
you.
Good.
Come on our show and get out from behind the keyboard and come up and speak out with us and give us a call. Y'all know how to get a hold of me. And so give me a call and let's have everybody come forward and actually speak, so that, it's not just a couple of us, but it's all of us standing together, because, when we do that, we have chance to, we bounce things off each other and it gets to be a stronger case. So let's go to this and explain what we're seeing here.
So this is what we send to our trustees, our servants, so that we can very friendly give them notice on where we believe they are transgressing against We the People. So this notice and the notice of the elements of a notice are pretty straightforward. The very first thing is to identify what we're noticing you about, and that's in the header. So this is a point of clarity notice, and it's a notice of maladministration or the perception of maladministration due to unofficial acts. Now, we called it maladministration in this notice because we have sent this to Cobb County in Georgia, and we've sent them so many notices, and now they're really, truly in danger of maladministration across the board. So the next part of the heading is notice to agent, is notice to principal, and notice to principal is notice to agent. Unfortunately, our government and our attorneys have become very clever at trying to hide from receipt of notices. So they've eliminated email addresses, the addresses, it goes into a general mailbox, and many of these are captured by clerks that, they'll take the notice and literally they won't give it to the addressee. So these
attorneys in the AG's office, they said that they filed it to MI file. There's no filing there. So they lied.
They lied. And by the way, they're allowed to lie because their oath is no truth or fact shall be tried in a court of law. So that is their motto. Their motto is no truth or fact will be tried in a court of law. It is all about hearsay and perception and all kinds of craziness. They've created the system for them. So that way they can create conflict, they can create motions, and they can make cases go on into perpetuity.
So they live in a fantasy land. They're probably the same people that don't know what a man or a woman is too. So
and they've even removed the definition of woman from the latest Black Laws dictionary. So that's why they don't know what a woman is. Unless it's defined in their dictionary, they don't know what it is, and they're not willing to go back to 1791 1891, the very first edition of Black Laws, and read it in that one. So
you know what? We need to bring them to the farm. I'll throw them in a stall with one of my stallions, and they do not negotiate well. They'll get it figured out what a man is real quick.
They will. By the way, this is a legal
Even
instrument.
if it's a horse. Sorry.
That's all right. This is a legal instrument that we the people are sending to our servants. So we typically will send them two on the same subject matter. We'll expand in the second one. This is the first one on this subject matter. We'll expand in the second one, and then we take it to an affidavit, because at that point they've committed maladministration. If they have not, done something to correct their errors based upon the Constitution, they have now committed maladministration. So Greg Martini, obviously, one of the people, as seen in the 50 state constitutions, Republican in form, sui juris, do send you this notice that you provide immediate due care to all those with political power, the people. Very clearly identify, we have the authority, we are their boss, you need to listen to us. We are one of the people. Please take notice. The very first please take notice is describing what our problem is. What are we trying to correct in this specific notice? Please take notice. The people have peacefully assembled for the common good regarding the state constitution and are aware that there is no constitutional grant of authority for the City of Luna Pier Tax Board or Review to exist, causing maladministration against the trust indenture contract. Constitution, i.e., an unofficial act for which there is no immunity.
Oh,
Obviously,
I like that.
That was the Trump versus United States case. So it clearly they said unofficial acts, no immunity. Emphasis added. See evidence below. Michigan Constitution, Article 1, Section 3. Assembly, consultation, instruction, and petition. This is directly from the Michigan Constitution. The people have the right peaceably to assemble, to consult for the common good, to instruct their representatives, and to petition the government for redress of grievances. Maxim of law. We follow up every constitutional article with a maximum law that supports the article. So this maxim of law will support that article. An unconstitutional act is not a law. It confers no rights. It imposes no duties. It affords no protection. It creates no office. It is in legal contemplation as inoperative as though it had never been passed. Now, a lot of people may not understand what a maxim of law is because they've hidden the maxims of law from us. That is this book that I had showed you earlier. We talked about this the last time. And this book, which is the Maxims of Law, this is a compilation by Charles Weisman of 1,600 of them. There's many more Maxims of Law, but this is a compilation of the top 1,600, and it's identified throughout this book in many different areas. I mean, from judicial acts, from God, from faith, from fault and blame, from equity, from duty of trustees. It's an incredible book, and you can get this online free. I mean, you can download a PDF and you can read it. And it really will support every single one of our notices and affidavit. So we've identified what our grievance is. We've identified in law where that grievance should be addressed. And then we go on to identify, well, what is maladministration? Because there, unfortunately, are many of our trustees that don't even know that that applies to them. They think they've been given immunity, which they have statutorily. Many of them have been given immunity, even when Biden tried to pardon all these people. Those are statutory immunities. Those aren't constitutional immunities. They have no immunity from treason, basically. If they've committed maladministration under the Constitution, they have no immunity. So Biden can pardon anyone he wants under that statute. It doesn't relate to their transgressions against we the people. So what is maladministration? It's bad management of public affairs, vicious or defective conduct administration, or to the performance of official duties, particularly of executive and ministerial duties prescribed by law, as the maladministration of a king or of any chief magistrate. So it is pretty clear. We know 99% of our trustees have committed and are committing maladministration. And it's not our job to prove it. It's our job to bring it to their attention. That's all our job is as we the people. The minute we send this notice, and if they do nothing about the notices, which they've literally ignored a lot of them because they don't feel that we are operating under the fundamental common law. They believe they're operating under their rules of civil procedure, rules of criminal procedure.
Pretended
Those are legislative acts. These are against the people, and they're about ready to learn the hard way in several cases. And once we get remedy through these grand juries, there's going to be many of them that are either going to need grace by we the people, or they're going to be spending time in some of these prisons that Bondi and Trump are about ready to reopen.
Or if it's treason, perhaps having a nice upfront meeting with God face to face.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of them are going to, they're going to become reacquainted with God through we the people.
Yeah, short drop, sudden stop doesn't work well for a long life. And if
It
you
really
commit
doesn't.
treason, that's the only prescribed action.
Well, and then we cite Supreme Court cases that are relevant to our claims. So obviously in this one, it's pretty clear. Trump v. United States, there is no immunity for unofficial acts. And the very first executive orders out of the hundreds and hundreds that Donald Trump signed on day one of them was to notify his entire cabinet that they don't have any immunity for unofficial acts. Well, do you realize that half of that cabinet, if not more than half, are representing non-positive law entities that are administrative agencies that are violating the Constitution? So right off the bat, Trump put every one of them on notice. And he basically told them, you need to come to Pam Bondi or myself and ensure that you are doing constitutional acts. And I think that's why the Department of Education has already laid off half their staff. I mean, and it's going to be more because, again, they're violating the Constitution. They're trampling the people's rights. And I wouldn't want to be sitting there as Miss McMahon, the Secretary of the Treasury, and have to try to defend a constitutional claim against actions that are being taken, like the one of withholding money, because that's what happens. You know, Republicans get in and then they withhold money from Democratic states and vice versa. And that's what they wanted to create for us. They wanted to create all these stupid conflicts that have nothing to do with we the people, but everything to do with their own personal NGOs that are funneling trillions. We talk about billions, it's trillions of dollars in the past 25 years. I mean, this country and our government has lost over $20 trillion. They can't tell you where it went. I can tell you where most of it went. It went to NGOs. It went to all these non-government organizations that literally allow them to fund whatever they choose away from the arm, away from the reach of we the people. They think it is.
Well, look into the foundations. How many of them fund things through their spouses, or they have private foundations that they have set up to hide things and disguise it? It's the whole system is putrid.
How in the world can we not have audits done for if government money goes out of our treasury into these NGOs, and then literally Stacey Abrams, who got $2 billion here in Georgia, and then can go into their private entities, and we're not even allowed to track it because it's an NGO, and there is no audits of NGOs.
That is so wrong. Or
that's how they operate.
Money, or any of the other dark money nonsense. And that brings me back to these cult political parties that are taking dark money and PAC money that can't be audited. It's like, I'm sorry, guys, this is wrong. And if you are falling in with these people and in these organizations, you're responsible for your actions. We have to just say no. You have to walk away from it. If everybody walked away from their involvement in these entities, cut the funding, the problems would disappear because it always goes back to the money.
It always goes back to the money. And unfortunately, they've found a way in the last 150 years to funnel trillions of dollars away from we the people, away from basically protecting our rights, which is all our government is supposed to be doing for us, is protecting our rights.
It's a money laundering crime syndicate.
Money laundering crime syndicate. But again, I don't think we need to prove that. I think most people already know that.
Right.
We need to put our government, and by the way, anyone that touches this notice and sees this and does nothing, which a lot of them are doing nothing because the attorneys are saying, oh, we don't follow the fundamental common law. They really, truly believe, most attorneys believe that the fundamental common law is no longer the law of the land? Well, I can show you in numerous cases in the Supreme Court where they've identified it is still the law of the land. Judge Gorsuch wrote a book about it. I mean, our group speaks about it every day, and we've got lots of cases. I mean, it is the law of the land. It will always be the law of the land, no matter how much they have suppressed it and kept it hidden from all of us. So,
well, let's keep going on this because this is really amazing. I love this.
and the final, we always have a please take final notice. So this is where we are addressing our servants, our trustees, in order to fulfill obligations that we know factually go against the Constitution. So please take final notice. It is my wish, order, and demand that the City of Luna Pier Tax Board of Review show their constitutional grant of authority to exist. That's the other problem. Many of these entities don't have the constitutional authority to exist. So we like to ask them a question, and then we give them a period of time to answer our questions. If you believe any of these statements to be false, rebut by affidavit, sworn under penalty of perjury, point by point within 5 days of receiving this notice, showing your constitutional grant of authority to exist, or you agree by tacit acquiescence. We're basically using against them what they do against us. And we're giving them 5 days to respond, which is more than enough time because it's a simple question. That all statements are true and shall be heard by an arbitrator of my choice. So we, the people, have the right to choose any arbitrator or any case. And this notice becomes an actual exhibit in my case. And if it goes unrebutted in those 5 days, it is fact. It is fact, and it can no longer, they can't come back later and say, oh, we didn't receive it, or we didn't think it was real, so we didn't respond to it. But you know what? This is what we call in our group laying the trap. David Jose has educated us. We lay the trap nicely, gently. We tell them what they're doing, and most of them ignore it. And then we send them a second notice. And now by the time it comes to the affidavit, they've committed treason.
Do you send this by certified mail?
We send these. So we have there are several different forms, but we use Jot form right now. So anybody, we'll send this out. All the people that watch your show, we can, if they agree with these, and you can go to We the People, which I put in the private chat, We the People website. And there's other notices on there that are active as we speak. So you can pull those notices up, and they're in different states, but they can be signed by anybody in any state. We the people are all of us, everyone that lives in the United States. So on that We the People site, there are a number of notices, and as we do them, we continue to upload them so that people can read them. If you go to active notice, oh, you're there. Okay. And you click down a little further, and you can click on that form, and it'll pull up the Jot form. We list who it's going to.
Oh, neat.
And there's the notice. And these notices typically never go beyond 1 page. It's a legal size page. We recognize people have limited attention spans. So 90+% of our notices are a single page, unless it's a second or third notice, because we may include the prior.
Okay.
Now, we add one other thing to our notices, which I think is important. Furthermore, your actions will show you are acting with full knowledge, intent, and malice, trespassing on the people and their constitutional rights, and that no court shall rehear this matter, but it shall stand as evidence in this court of record. Anyone suppressing this notice agrees to pay $30,000, because we know attorneys try to suppress them, A response from an attorney not directly addressed by this notice will be considered a non-response. We don't want attorneys. We didn't hire attorneys. We hired trustees. Trustees try to hide behind the attorneys, and the attorneys lie to their trustees because they know they believe there's no personal responsibility to them. Well, there's a lot more than personal responsibility to them. They're committing the same treason because they're getting paid for their services to our trustees. This notice is sent to you in the love of Jesus Christ, that you provide immediate due care to those with all political power, the people. We autograph it. We always include the maxim at the bottom. Judicial notice is a form of evidence.
That's beautiful. And then you said you follow this up with a second one?
We give them time to respond.
5 days, right?
We give them 5 days, and then we will prepare a second one. The second one, we will recite our claim, but what we're doing in our second one is giving them expanded knowledge. We don't put everything because it's not our job. We the people, I only have to give them notice. It's their job to know the law. And most of them have never read their state constitutions. They don't even know what the people's rights are. They rely on their attorneys. Well, you know what? The minute you take that position as a trustee, as a servant of we the people, you take a responsibility that is almost greater than any responsibility you've ever had before. But that's not how our servants feel today. They feel like the rule of law is from the top down, and they've indemnified themselves. So they think they all have immunity. Every one of them. Everyone in Washington, everyone in our state capitals, they think they have immunity and they can't go to prison. Well, when you commit treason, when you commit maladministration against the people, you can absolutely, certainly go to prison. And you can go to prison for life. And there's going to be a lot of people that work for these NGOs and these administrative agencies that are committing serious crimes against we the people.
Did you see I put my email address in there? Don't say it out loud, please. But if you could try sending that again, because for some reason it did not come through on my email of the big notice. Okay. And so I don't know what happened there, but it didn't come through. So we're gonna try this again.
All right. It certainly could have been on my part as well.
Well, it's hard to say, whenever anything is in the cyber world, who knows,
You're right.
And we'll put it up. I was kind of curious why it didn't come through. I'm like, this is kind of odd. Well, I really like going through this notice with you. I think that this is a good process to maybe continue to go through these, on a week by week basis, so that people get familiar with seeing the format. It takes people usually sometimes 5 to 10 times before they really understand what they're seeing, especially if it's new. And I think, honestly, this is one of the strengths of doing it from different ways, is that, you take what people already familiar with and what they know. If you not you personally, but if a person goes in and educates them on something they have no knowledge, you're going to spend 3 or 4 times educating them. If you come in with already somewhat of knowledge, the retention rate and the understanding rate goes up exponentially.
No, I couldn't agree more.
I mean, how many people out there could actually say, oh, yeah, I know all about this? Well, I'm going to tell you what, I'm learning something every single day.
Well, and I learned a tremendous amount. I never knew to send a note. All of us want to send letters and emails, and we want to go out and get people to sign the letters. Well, you know what? A notice is a lot more powerful than any letter I could ever send. And when I do it through an assembly of we the people, and then I send it to my government officials, it's even more powerful than that. So I'm sending you as well another notice, which maybe you can list on your site. This is one that we did. It's a little longer notice, a little more in depth. It's one from David Jose directly to Donald Trump and Pam Bondi. And this one has a little different message, and it's an attempt to give Donald Trump cover, constitutional cover for what he's trying to do, so that he can literally ignore these bad actors, that these judicial cases that should have zero control over what our executive branch is doing if we truly had the proper separation of powers. Everyone wants to talk about the rights of these, aliens that have invaded us.
The operative word there is illegal.
Illegal.
Illegal aliens, right? It's like that every one of them has broken the law.
Broken the law.
It's like I don't know. And
well, here's what Biden attempted to do, though. Biden and the administration attempted to make them legal and make them, part of our due process system by giving them Social Security cards so that they could then go and get a driver's license, get a job, and vote. And again, they made them part of this fake court system which is where these cases are being heard. And again, they believe, our government servants believe, that they don't have to follow the Constitution, that they're following their own Constitution that is completely out of bounds. So if we, the people, if we're tacitly acquiescent to their fake system, then they can pretty much do whatever they want, which is what they've done for 150 years. So in order for us to really take back our country, for we the people, and demand that our government isn't putting us in tyranny like they have for 150 years, we have to understand what that means. And then we have to hold them accountable by notices and affidavits. And by the way, when you get to an affidavit, what's really impressive with David's teachings is that affidavit is a court of record. And you need to go back to due process of law, which we all have the right to, but we've all waived that right. When I say we all, a lot of people have waived that right because they've accepted their statutory procedural system. So if you waive your rights to true due process, which they've changed the definition of, you've got to go back to Black Law's 4th and 5th in order to get the real definition of due process of law. But once you go back and you get the real definition and you understand what due process of law is and the protection of my rights, that court of record, that affidavit is a court of record. And it cannot be, they cannot come back later and say, oh, I thought you were just kidding. I didn't.
Oh yeah, we're joking. We're joking about all this, guys.
Yeah. And you know what? When you get to the affidavit phase, then you put some serious penalties against them individually. It's an unofficial act. So they are personally liable. And when you put a trustee on notice that they're personally liable by affidavit, which we'll get to in future shows, I mean, we obviously have to start with the notice, because you have to educate people that are completely uneducated, as we have been. 99.9% of American people are completely uneducated with what the law of the land is.
Because they hid it from us. It was intentional.
They have hid it from us. You have to learn it. There's multiple ways to learn it. I mean, Dave and Jaron offer free podcasts that you can learn the law. It takes time, though. I mean, obviously, everybody doesn't have an enormous amount of time. But even if you don't learn the law, you can read a one-page affidavit. You can determine whether you believe that that's important, and you can put your autograph on it, sign it in jot form. That's all you have to do. It will go back to the originator of the notice, and then they will send it to our representatives. And it's broadly distributed, so we're not sending it to one or two people. We want everybody to know the truth. And
that's really cool.
Broad distribution of knowledge. You send it to governors, you send it to trustee, all sorts of trustees. I mean, local sheriffs. We have one right now on grand juries. We've sent one that's on our website to notify local sheriffs. We want access to grand juries directly. You know why? Because we have hundreds of thousands of affidavits that have been signed. They're already cases. In fact, they're default judgments because they have never been rebutted. It's nearly impossible to rebut truth. I mean, God's truth is truth. And that's all we cite. We take a huge amount of time and effort in our group. And we have people that are incredible at knowing the law, understanding the law, understanding what a notice is, and making sure we're not putting anything in these notices that doesn't come directly from the written word. And we've slowed down, we've taken our time, and we're doing it effectively issue by issue.
Well, this is really cool. So next week we'll get, it still hasn't come through my email, which is odd.
That is
you sent it. And so you know what?
I've sent it twice now.
I know, it's really, really odd. So we're going to have to, we'll revisit this next Wednesday. And I think that's good because this might be what God wanted us to put out there in bite-sized pieces. So it's not so overwhelming that everybody's like, oh, excuse me, I got to, run to my safe corner here, Yeah. But I love this stuff. I think this is fantastic. So I appreciate you coming. Would you like to pray today, or would you like me to pray for us? And we're going to go on our day, and the next week we'll be on and tackling.
If you can pray for us, that's great.
Okay, that's great. I never know what I'm going to say when I pray. I just kind of talk to God like, "Hey, God, how you doing here?"
I do too, but I do it in private, and I'm not very good at doing it in public.
Oh, no worries. I get that. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for Greg and for all the wonderful people like Bill and Ralph and all the people that Greg is working with out there. There's so many names. We just can't even mention them all. For people that are willing to put in their time, their effort, their treasure, and stand for something that's bigger than them, which is this beautiful country that you gave us. And you've given us so many blessings. And we just want to say thank you and praise you for everything you've done for us and the fact that you've never left us. You're always with us. You're walking us through the messes that we have allowed and in some cases have created. You told us to pray for our enemies, and we pray for every single person that is in violation of the law, that has been committing crimes, and they may not even realize that they're doing it, and ask you to talk to them straight from you, help them to turn around and repent and do the right thing and walk away from this absolutely horrible system which has set itself against you. We ask that you would bless anybody that's following any of these satanic groups, that they would have their eyes open, that you would throw a great amount of confusion into this satanic teaching that they're using to victimize our children, to victimize this country, to create disturbance of the peace, etc. And that you would bring everyone back to the knowledge that following you, walking with you on this earth in your peace is the prize. The prize is walking with you here in the atoning death of Jesus Christ and resurrection, that we may come to you and talk to you, and that you're here all the time. But that division is no longer there. And we thank you for the gift that you've given us of just being able to spend time with you. We love you. We want to spend time with you. We want to be like you because we know that you're good all the time. We don't want to be like what we've seen out there that is just, we know in our heart of hearts is wrong, and that we desire a better place. We desire heaven. We desire where you are in perfection. And help us to open our eyes to the people around us who are hurting today. Help us to get over our own problems, because everybody has them. Embrace them and say, okay, what are we supposed to learn, instead of lamenting that things aren't exactly the way that we want. We don't want to be spoiled children. We want to be your best friend. That's what we want to be. We want to be your best friend, that you can count on us at any time, and whatever it is that you ask us to do, that we put our hands up and say, pick me, send me. We are willing, without concern to consequences of our actions, but in absolute faith in following you. We just love you. And thank you for this day. I hope you're blessed by our behavior this day, and that we bring a smile to your face, that we turn away from things that are evil or wicked, and that we follow your instructions that you've given us to live a good, upstanding life full of integrity and honesty, focused on those good and beautiful things in the world, and let everybody go out there and look at their animals and their pets and the flowers, and know that you haven't left us. You're still here with us. We just have to step up when we're called. Thank you so much for being a friend to us. We want to be a friend to you in the name of Jesus Christ. We pray.
Amen.
So there we go, boys and girls. We're going to go to that part of the show. This is my 2022 protest, just so you know I'm still protesting. The 2022 protest, please go to brandenburgforgovernor.com, because I'm the best non-conceder who has ever not conceded in the history of the United States of America. And I'd like to have a discussion with the rightful president of the United States, who was a rightful president in 2020 and is still the rightful president right now, Donald J. Trump in cowboy boots. We'll see who wears it better. It will be me. And so just saying, he's a city boy. So I will, in fact, wear the cowboy boots better. I've got that one already. I've determined that. And so with that said, everyone, God bless you all. God bless all those whom you love. And God bless America. Make it a great day. Be that person who stands up, that doesn't need to be agreed with by everyone else. If you know something's right, you may think you're alone, but you're not. There's all kinds of us out there that will stand with you, that won't ostracize you. And you're going to find a group of real friends who stand on integrity and honesty, who stand on honor, and who stand on service to God, to his family, to his world. And we're proud of that. And we're not making apologies for being the ones who don't go with the crowd. Have a great day. And I think I'm on tomorrow. I've got somebody that's coming on tomorrow. And I think I might be doing a special broadcast tomorrow, because there is a whistleblower that's come forward and has also had his life threatened multiple times. And I believe he's going to be on tomorrow with me breaking. I don't think he's talked to anybody else, because he's kind of in hiding right now. We're going to get to the bottom of this, and it is for your family, my family. We're all the same family. We're the family of God, and we're willing to stand for each other's rights and stand against all threats, foreign and domestic. And so that's the way it is. So we'll see you tomorrow.